As you can see here, those are the gains in bench press. 20 pounds added to that bench press. And these guys were trained lifters. I think they had like at least a year of training experience. That's insane, guys. Meanwhile, the placebo group only put on 6 pounds. I'll put the link to the study in the description so you can check out the details. But this is insane, guys. This is almost in steroid territory.
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be reacting to Team 3D Alpha Ecdysterone, most anabolic natural supplement in the world? Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, gorilla, injection, genetics, DNA helix, testosterone Thursday. So this video got a decent amount of traction. The hashtags are Ecdysterone and Turkesterone. So expectedly, a lot of people have been asking me to comment on this for about a couple weeks almost at this point, and give my insight, considering I've talked about Turkesterone a handful of times at this point. People want to get my insight, and I guess we will see exactly what he says on these estrogen receptor agonists and what he thinks, what his stance is on their efficacy.
Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. You guys have been asking for this video for so fucking long, so here it is. Anyway, so take a look at the difference in lean body mass between the placebo group and the Ecdysterone group, right? Insane fucking difference. And this is the study by Eisenman that came out in 2019. And this is the change in bench press performance, 1 rep max strength. It was flat bench, by the way, not incline. But yeah, look at the difference in strength gains from the Ecdysterone group, right? Insane. And this was just 12 milligrams of Ecdysterone compared to the placebo group.
Okay, in general, to be honest, I've seen the study and I'm highly skeptical. And this is coming from somebody who sells fucking Turkesterone. So 48 milligrams versus 12. So 4 times the dose yields less progress in the bench. Now, obviously you have to look at the actual study, how it was designed, number of people in it, the kind of context behind it and whatnot. And again, I'm a very, very, not even optimistic at this point. I know that a certain dose of a high quality Ecdysterone and Turkesterone does work. It's just not a night and day thing. Like having a change in your bench of 22 pounds with 12 milligrams of Ecdysterone is not going to happen. It's not. That's like a very, very low dose. If I was using Ecdy, I would be using in the thousands, bro, not 12. So yeah, I don't hold a lot of weight in the study, to be honest, but it's cool to see somebody actually break it down and give their insight, because I could be wrong. That would be great if I was wrong. I fucking sell Turkesterone, so it would be nice if it was this effective. However, I do know at this point it's not just about optimism, rather there are real life results that you can gain from this. I've seen enough people breaking PRs, I've seen enough people gaining actual muscle on it, all but not crazy amounts. Certainly more than enough for something that does not impact androgenic alopecia, has 0 negative feedback with the HPTA, has no liver and kidney toxicity, is not going to cause cardiomegaly. Shit like that is stuff that is highly, highly attractive to me, and then makes it worth looking at, even if it is, 1/10 of the results of something. If it's comparable to, a handful of milligrams of Anavar, to me, that's fucking great. I would much rather look at that than something that is going to have impacts on my lipids, if it's going to have impacts on my hair, shit like that, stuff I am highly interested in. So anyways, a little bit of a ramble, but anyways.
This is close to steroid-like gains, right? Not equal, but very fucking close. Ecdysterone is no fucking joke, guys. And now you see why year after year I keep recommending eating.
By the way, this is me saying I highly doubt the study is legit and blah, blah, blah. Some people respond well to certain shit. Some people respond disproportionately well. How many guys have you seen run a cycle and look like nothing after, make no visible change whatsoever, and or regress right back to baseline after getting off what they took? And they took an actual full-blown decent dose steroid cycle. Everyone responds differently. Some guys look at a weight and they fucking blow up. When it comes to Ecdysterone, it all depends on your genetics, your individual affinity at the estrogen receptor for agonization. That's not even a fucking word, for agonism. And then what is going to happen downstream to that? Some people will respond very well, and some people might not respond at all. And the same thing with Turkesterone. Some people notice almost no difference. Some people gained hit PRs week after week on this shit, So it's very, very individual dependent too. So, I could be wrong. Maybe you can gain 20 plus pounds on Ecdy. I just don't think at 12 it's going to do that. So that's kind of where I'm skeptical, is the dosage in question in particular.
Eating a shit ton of quinoa and a shit ton of spinach. But anyway, this is another episode of Testosterone Thursday. Obviously, we normally talk about testosterone related stuff on this day. But since you guys have been asking for this video for so long, I said, why the fuck not? So you'll finally get to see why ecdysterone is the most anabolic compound, natural compound, I should say, in the world. Well, technically protein is, but you know what the fuck I mean. All right, so first, what is ecdysterone? All right, so let's bring out the Vegeta Scouter. All right, so it's just a molting hormone, guys, right? It's a hormone that insects use to fucking molt, right? Turn into, for example, caterpillars turning into butterflies and shit, right? It's also found in plants, mainly as a self-defense mechanism, because think about it, guys. If you're a caterpillar munching on the spinach over here, and the spinach has a lot of fucking ecdysterone, well, it's going to speed up the molting process. You're going to turn into a butterfly. It's pretty much the plant's way of saying, fuck off, go eat something else, right? So in insects, it's mainly a molting hormone. Allows them to fucking evolve and shit, you know, kind of like Pokemon, right? Fucking Metapod turning into Butterfree and shit, right? So that's mainly what it does in insects. In humans, it's anabolic as shit, right? So obviously it increases protein synthesis. It increases strength, as you guys have seen. It increases recovery ability, allows you to adapt to stress faster, and it obviously improves insulin sensitivity, right? It has a bunch of other functions, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to focus on the stuff that we care about. It even has some neuroprotective effect. And this is nothing new, guys. Ecdysterone has been around for decades.
So the neuroprotection, that's actually an interesting concept to look into further, because we do know the neuroprotective effects of estrogen. So hypothetically, I would think that would be driven through its estrogen receptor activation. I can't think of why else it would do it.
Right, it's been studied in mammals and so many different animals, and the results have been pretty consistent. Like I said, in insects, it works mainly by activating the ecdysterone receptor. In humans, it works mainly by activating the estrogen beta receptor, right? The beta receptor, not the alpha receptor, right? These are two completely different receptors. Obviously, the alpha receptor is the one that most people are terrified of, right? If you're a bodybuilder, whereas the beta receptor is actually the good one, right?
Estrogen receptor beta is associated with hypertrophy more so that's why, you know, it would be favorable in our context that we're looking at it for.
The one that mediates the anabolic effects of estrogen. Now, how anabolic is it in humans? It's extremely anabolic, as you can see here. From the Eisenman study, the placebo group actually lost lean body mass, whereas the ecdysterone group put on a ton of gains.
Like in general too, why I'm skeptical of studies like this, not only because this dosage is nothing, but in addition, you can find studies that show like betaine anhydrous, shit like stuff you find in pre-workouts is going to stack on slabs of muscle. And in reality, does it? Like, no, none of us are putting on, you know, slabs of new tissue with, you know, gorilla mode. What we're doing rather is we're motivating ourselves in the gym, getting higher quality workouts, getting better pumps, etc. And downstream, that's going to lead to more pounds on the bar and or more endurance to get more volume in, etc., which can downstream lead to more muscle growth. But the actual claims in the studies on some of the singular compounds, even at the dosages that we're including, the efficacious dosages to match those studies, they're showing like, oh, you know, increased lean body mass by like 3 pounds in like however many weeks. Like those claims, I do not really buy into whatsoever. And that's why I never really talk about that shit when I talk about pre-workouts. Like sometimes companies will really lean into that shit and be like, oh, there was this one study that showed that fill in the blank would added like 4 pounds of lean body mass. And it's like, do you really think that was not a coincidence based on, you know, whatever athletes were participating in the study, their diet model, their lifestyle, their whatever? Like obviously some random fucking thing that is causing an acute performance benefit is not going to randomly stack on 4 pounds of contractile tissue. So like that's the kind of stuff I overlook, and I more so look to the indirect benefits and downstream, how's it going to lead to muscle growth down the line? And I really focus on like, what can this do for me right now? You know, like in a pre-workout, like you're not using it for muscle growth really. Like the creatine in it maybe a little bit, and you know, downstream the things I mentioned as far as the mechanism of action of some of the pre-workout ingredients, how it can help you get more volume in, higher quality workouts, eke out a few more pounds each workout, and like whatever the fuck. But again, circling back to the ecdysterone thing, if you see a claim in a study that says it increases your bench by, you know, almost like change in lean body mass of 4.5 pounds with, you know, 48 milligrams, 12 milligrams placebo, like this milligram quantity is so low. Like most supplements are going to be, you know, like 500 milligrams a capsule. And that's not complex or anything. That's just flat out. Like, do you think it's going to be this substantial? Like, I would highly doubt it, you know? And this is like, I'm an optimist about estrogen receptor beta agonists, you know? So that's even me saying it. So, but again, very promising, and I see in practical application, this shit works. That's ecdysterone and turkesterone. So don't take it as me just like shitting on the compound. I'm just trying to keep your expectations realistic as we're looking at the data points here.
Right. And keep in mind, this was only 12 milligrams of ecdysterone, right? The capsules actually claim to have a lot more than that. But like I told you guys, most supplement companies are full of shit, right? It actually came out to only 12 milligrams for group 1, and then the high dose group was about 48 milligrams. And look at the gains in lean body mass. Keep in mind, this is not water weight, right? They actually measured water weight as well. So most of the gains in lean body mass was mainly muscle. And this is only after 10 weeks of training. As you can see here, those are the gains in bench press. Fucking 20 pounds added to that bench press. And these guys were trained lift. I think they had like at least a year of training experience. That's insane, guys. Meanwhile, the placebo group only put on 6 pounds. I'll put the link to the study in the description so you can check out the details. But this is insane, guys. This is almost in steroid territory. Now, as far as squats, the gains were actually similar, but bench press, insane. And the reason why I love this study so much was because it was very, very carefully designed. They did a full body workout. I believe it was 3 times a week, progressively overload, everything. In fact, the study was supported by WADA, right, World Anti-Doping Agency, because they actually wanted to know, hey, is this thing legit? Because keep in mind, guys, like this one has been out, like I said, since the what? I think the Russians were using it back in the 80s or some shit. They used to call it the Russian secret. So it's been around for a long fucking time, but most of the experiments were done on animals, and the ones on humans were not very conclusive. So this was the most diligent, well-done study on humans. Prior to that, you have the one that was done on rats, right? As you can see here, you have the control group. The EDD group, that's really Tremblox, not Trembolone, Tremblox. It's pretty much in the same family, right? The Nandrolone family, right? So very similar to Deca. The MD group, that was Dynabol. Again, you had Psalms, that's the S1 group. And look at Ecdysterone, right? Look at the difference, right? This is the fold increase, by the way, in size. Crazy. And this was given pound per pound, right? So I think it was 5 milligrams per kilogram for the rat. So given the exact same dose, look how much more powerful Ecdysterone was.
Okay, so as far as my anecdotal findings, having seen tons of people use this shit by now, I can tell you that at least Turkesterone and Ecdy, I would say, are probably, now Ecdysterone is going to be, like in my experience, it's not I don't think it's as strong as Turkesterone. That's not just basing it off of the fucking rodent data. Rather, I think its actual and practical application not as good either. However, obviously certain compounds everybody responds to differently. Just like, you know, some people don't take this as me saying Turkesterone and Ecdysterone are comparable to Dbol and Anadrol, but just in general, if we were to look at anabolic response, if I was to say, what do you like better, Dbol or Anadrol? I guarantee you in the comment section, 50% of people would be like Dbol, 50% would say Anadrol. And, maybe there'd be more of a mixed bag, maybe be like 60-40, 70-30, whatever. But there are going to be some individuals that respond way better than one or the other, even though there's another guy who responds way better to the other one. So this is where, when it comes to Ecdy and Turkesterone, like there's certainly viable reason to experiment with both and see if you respond to one better, because it's not just, oh, this one on paper is superior, therefore it's the better one. Rather, some of it comes down to genetic response too. And when it comes to comparing Ecdy to other steroids, yeah, there is the data that shows it compared to, methandrostenolone, Dbol, showing it compared to other compounds and anabolic agents, and beating them. But in practical application in humans, what do I see throughout all of my findings over the past however many months? I see Turkesterone as comparable to like a very low dose of Anavar. That's what I see personally, and that's what seems to play out in practical application. However, with a relative lack of the impact on, now granted, the dose of Anavar to actually equate to the effects that you get from Turkesterone are not going to be that harsh on your biomarkers either. But Turkesterone, from what I've seen, is completely void of activity on SHBG. It's not going to push it down. Lipids don't get impacted at all. Kidney and liver stress markers, totally fine. No negative feedback on the HPTA. So it's a totally clean compound from what I've seen in all the blood work feedback I've had. And no androgenicity in the scalp, so it's not going to cause any hair loss. So this is something that is very, very promising still. And at this point, it's not even just like promising, like it's just fucking good, If this is something you'd want to pursue. Now, if you're going to say, oh, for the money, this is a better use of the money, because for that same amount, you can buy a vial of test. It's like, yeah, you can buy a lot of fucking shit I could go buy a vial of Tren for the cost of like 2 boxes of fucking Quest protein bars. Are you going to say that I shouldn't buy Quest protein bars because I can get Tren instead? Like that is like a dumb, illogical argument. And at the end of the day, it's what kind of value proposition are you looking to get out of what you're trying to buy? Is it, do you care about hair loss? Do you care about not impacting your biomarkers, but having a much lower amount of, return on your investment in terms of actual progress? Like, what is your pros and cons list? That's what it comes down to. But anyways, circling back to the video here. And I was only interjecting because he's comparing it, the data from before about comparing Ecdy to these other anabolics.
Right, pound for pound, it was stronger than Psalms, it was stronger than Dianabol, it was stronger than Trembolox. Again, not Trenbolone, Trembolox. And if you look here, the myotube diameter, look at that. Once again, DHT, IGF-1, and then you have Ecdysterone, right? Again, same dose, and look how much Ecdysterone was able to. And keep in mind, this is just Ecdysterone, right? The more powerful version of Ecdysterone is Turkesterone. So they were only using Ecdysterone. If they were using Turkesterone, it would have been probably 20 to 50% more. So it's anabolic in humans, anabolic in rats, and if you think about it, anabolic in insects, right? Because they're fucking molting and shit, right? And the best part is it has no side effects. It's been studied extensively. Mainly researchers were trying to find side effects. They couldn't find any. Because keep in mind, they're trying to use this thing to actually help patients and stuff.
Yeah, so I couldn't find, and I looked, dude. Side effects with Turkesterone, nothing, dude. Blood work totally clean.
Not just trying to, they were not researching this for bodybuilders. It's mainly researchers looking for a way to treat muscle wasting diseases without having the side effects that come with testosterone. And the final proof of how anabolic this is hilarious because you guys know me, I'm obsessed with the human body and hypertrophy, muscle growth. So I'm always keeping up with the latest research and especially the monitoring program of WADA, right? Because every year they release whatever compounds they believe should be banned or that they're considering banning. And sure enough, look, the 2021 monitoring program, like this one is right there. See, anabolic agents. Obviously, you have beta 2 agonists. This is where stuff like Clen would go. Right, clenbuterol. But anyway, see, anabolic agents, Ecdysterone, right? The funny thing is, I've been keeping tabs on this program for fucking years. And guys, this was the first time. 2020 was the first time in years that they actually added a compound to the anabolic agent, right? Because before it used to just be like steroids and stuff like that. And finally, they decided to put Ecdysterone, which is.
Yeah, the interesting thing is this stuff has supposedly been around forever. It's stood the test of time in terms of, not being effective and blah, blah, blah. But it seems like now kind of people are realizing, or at least seeing what potential it may have at a dosage that's, reasonable enough to exert some sort of performance enhancing effect. And now suddenly it's added to the WADA watch list. So obviously they think it's potentially anabolic enough to be performance enhancing, so they might end up banning it. So, obviously as a consequence of that, you can imagine Turkesterone will be added to it as well, I would think. So definitely something to watch out for if you compete in tested events. But as of now, totally fine to use.
Funny because, again, this one has been around for so fucking long. Again, Russians were using it in the 80s, guys. But finally, after these studies came out, especially the one when they compared it to steroids and then the one that came out on humans, WADA was like, yeah, fuck that. Let's put that shit on the monitoring program. So they're actually they're considering banning it. The reason why they can't is simply because,
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that too. Obviously, the studies being conducted, obviously they have to prove that it's performance enhancing to actually add it to this list for it to even be justified to put it on the watch list. So that's where the data points that Team 3D Alpha put up earlier relate to this in particular. So obviously WADA saw those data points, thought they were significant enough to justify adding it to their watch list for anabolic agents. And by the way, the other shit in anabolic agents is all very, very high, hard-hitting shit, like Trenbolone, fucking Oxandrolone, like every anabolic steroid you could think of, SARMs, etc. All that stuff is in here. So this is what Ecdysterone would be added to. Now, I guess that sort of reinforces the credibility of the data points as opposed to, being highly skeptical of the low dosages used to actually yield those performance metrics. So obviously WADA thought it was concerning enough to really closely look at. So now they are watching out to see how many people are actually using the shit and if it's making a huge difference.
Think about it. This one is natural. It's found in foods, right? And you don't need a lot to see results. So what are they going to do? Tell people not to eat spinach, not to eat quinoa? That's why it's going to be very, very tough for them to put a restriction on Ecdysterone, right? Because like I said, you don't need a lot to see the benefits, right? And they can't tell people not to eat fucking spinach and quinoa before events. That's dumb as fuck. Right? And look, 2019, look, see, there was no anabolic agents. 2018, 2017, 2016, see, no anabolic agents.
Yeah, and interesting enough, telmisartan was on the watch list and then was taken off the watch list. The only reason I'm saying that is because as far as ARBs go, a lot of people think that telmisartan is like a weak cardarine and it's this crazy fucking sick thing. Use it for the health benefits. Do not use it solely for, if you think it's going to be like a mild cardarine without cancer, it's probably not. It was taken off the watch list and it does not agonize, I believe it is PPR delta, that significantly to be actually useful in that context, at least from what WADA has determined.
Right. So there hasn't been an anabolic agent on the monitoring program for so many, well, I think it's like over 12 years. Look, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010, and it goes as far back as 2009. See, there's not been a single anabolic agent for over 12 years until those studies on ecdysterone were completed. They were like, yeah, fuck that. The Russians were not joking. This thing is powerful as fuck. But I guarantee you guys, it's probably not going to get banned, right? Because if they do decide to ban it, it's going to be in high quantities. They'll probably say, hey, we're going to test your blood for high quantities of ecdysterone, which is, again, pointless because people would just get low quantities from regular food, right? So this is how you know how anabolic ecdysterone is. The fact that WADA is considering banning. And keep in mind, guys, there are a lot of supplements out there that are very effective and are not on a monitoring program. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely true. Like, again, I just mentioned too, all the pre-workout ingredients that you could otherwise claim are performance enhancing. There's data points showing, oh, you know, this many pounds of lean body mass increase, but none of them have ever been added to the watch list.
think about it. Creatine is not on the fucking monitoring program for 2021. And we know how effective creatine is, right? We have so many time-tested supplements out there that are known to improve your performance, yet they're not on the monitoring program, yet ecdysterone is, which just goes to show how powerful it is, right? Now, how much do you need? Guys, believe it or not, because I see everyone thinking you need like this crazy amount of ecdysterone. Guys, in the study, they only used like 12 milligrams for the low group, and it still saw significant gains. So that's why I keep telling you guys year after year, you don't need that much ecdysterone to see results, right? Even if you compare the 48 milligram group to the 12 milligram group, look, the difference in bench press was not statistically significant. If you look at the difference in lean body mass, right? It wasn't that big of a difference going from 12 milligrams to 48 milligrams. So you don't need that much to see results. And the reason why most people are confused is because in the rodent studies, they're using 5 milligram per kilogram. So everyone is thinking, what, 5 milligram per kilogram? Let's use the same dosage for humans. Guys, remember, you can't use the same dose for humans that they use on rodents, right? You got to convert, right? 5 milligrams per kilogram for rats, that comes out to like 0.8 milligram per kilogram for humans, right? You got to do the conversion. And in the Eisenman study, they only used about 0.15 milligram per kilogram for the low ecdysterone group and about 0.16 milligram per kilogram for the high ecdysterone group. All right, so if you're the average guy weighing about 170, 180 pounds, whatever, you only need like 12 to 15 milligrams, maybe 20, right? Maybe 20 milligrams of ecdysterone a day to see gains. Now, what is the best way to get ecdysterone? Told you guys, it's found in spinach, it's found in quinoa, it's found in ajuga, and it's also found in sumaru, right? It's found in a lot of different weird-ass plants and shit. But like I said, keep it simple, man. Eat a ton of spinach, eat a ton of quinoa, and you should be set, right? Ajuga has a ton of turkesterone, but then again, it's a rare-ass plant, very fucking hard to get, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be munching on suma roots and shit, right? So no need to waste your money on these weird-ass extracts. Eat quinoa, eat spinach. For example, 1 ounce of quinoa, again, as long as it's high quality, 100% quinoa, and it's not mixed with a bunch of bullshit, right? So 1 ounce of quinoa has like 8 to 10 milligrams of ecdysterone, right? So 2 ounces of dry quinoa comes out to obviously more than that if you cook it, right? Because it's going to absorb water and shit. But anyway, 2 ounces of dry quinoa is going to give you more than enough ecdysterone to see gains, right? Spinach has slightly less. It depends on different factors, but about 1 ounce of dry spinach gives you about anywhere from 1 to 10 milligrams of ecdysterone. So we'll use 5 milligrams as like the middle point. Again, ajuga has a lot fucking more. And like I said before, it has turkesterone, which is a lot more powerful than ecdysterone, but very hard to get your hands on this shit. So it's best to just keep it simple, right? Spinach or quinoa is found everywhere, right? So now you see why I put so much quinoa and spinach in all my meal plans. And now you see why I've been recommending quinoa every fucking year to not just my friends, my subscribers, but most importantly, my clients. My clients already know. Like, if you're on any of my programs, you eating quinoa until you get fucking sick of it. The strength gains are insane. Now, the $1 million question I always get is, Megan, should I buy Ecdysterone supplements? Hell no. Come on, guys. I've answered that question so many times. Save your fucking money, right? Most of these companies are full of shit. I told you. For example, in a study, right, in the Eisenman study, the company claimed that one capsule had about 100 milligrams of Ecdysterone. Guess what? It only had 12 milligrams, right? And it has some shitty ass amount of leucine in it. Not even enough to make a difference, right? Think about it. A company saying, hey, there's 100 milligrams in this thing, and there's only 12 milligrams, right? So save your money. Most of these companies are going to rip you off anyway. Also, you don't know what the fuck they're putting in there. They could put a bunch of fillers. They could put banned substances, right? And now you just cashed in your natty card because you didn't want to eat some fucking quinoa, right? And
yeah, so obviously don't, just buy from random companies. That would be this is definitely a good piece of advice, buy from a company who is putting in the work, making sure they have high quality raw materials and is dosing their shit accurately, which is like, obviously you want your money's worth when you're buying something expensive. I don't know what Ecdysterone is like as far as sourcing though, to be honest. I have only looked into Turkesterone, but Turkesterone is very hard to source, very expensive, and it definitely is not as high of a margin item as I thought it was going to be when I initially got into it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I was happy just to bring it to market in general because it's something I was interested in trying myself. And when you add the complex into the equation with the hydroxypropyl beta-cyclodextrin, it becomes pretty fucking expensive, and the turnaround time is ridiculous. So the amount of sunk money you have in it while it's being manufactured is quite substantial, to the point where it's like, I could be making money on all these different products with this money tied up for like 6 goddamn months at the same time. So any company that is, I don't know, like, it's hard for me to tell if a Ecdysterone company is like doing their due diligence or whatever, but I can tell you right now that the amount of money I tie up in the Turkesterone, like, I'm very, very optimistic in it, what it does. And I've seen enough feedback at this point to continue pursuing it. So that's, if you want to see more details on my feedback and, anecdotal findings and whatnot, obviously you can see some of my old videos, but in general, this is a interesting overview of Ecdysterone and its purported benefits. In general, if you don't know how it works, it's bind to estrogen receptor beta, agonizes it similarly to how some anabolics can even do it indirectly, but in addition to that, mainly through estradiol. And consequently, you can get some hypertrophy and strength gains out of that without the consequence of, interestingly enough, no negative feedback to your HPTA, even though it is literally working through the estrogen receptor. So this is something I was, very hopeful that would not be the case, where it's like, you don't want to be taking something that's going to be shutting you down, obviously. And it does not seem to cause any suppression whatsoever. Haven't seen any organ toxicity so far. Haven't seen any kind of SHBG suppression. Nothing problematic in a unnatural context whatsoever. So I think it's just a matter of time before WADA really tightens up their really looks at this shit a bit more closely, because I've had some people on our team who used Turkesterone for their powerlifting meets, and it definitely did something. So I would not be surprised if I see it on a ban list coming up in the near future. But for me personally, I'm just happy there's, more shit I can be looking at that gives me a little bit of an extra edge without fucking up my hair and my organs, to be honest. So for me, honestly, that was the only thing. I was mainly optimistic about that for myself personally. And then I was surprised what the demand was like from the public, to be honest. I didn't think this would become such a highly sought after thing. I thought it would be a very niche, specialty exotic kind of thing that some people would be interested in, but most people weren't. But a lot of people fucking are. And I think the blood work is really reinforcing why more people are getting interested in it. Because, personally, I did not know personally until we had at least, 10 plus blood panels come back looking fucking spot on. I was like, wow, this shit is actually I see no detriment whatsoever. I'm not saying it doesn't have a detriment. I'm just saying I have not seen evidence of it yet. So, maybe that may not be the case in the future, but for now it seems pretty solid. So definitely a highly interesting compound in addition to Ecdysterone, which if you haven't tried either, if you're trying to decide between them or whatever, I would recommend trying both, see what happens, see how you respond to each. Maybe you respond better to Ecdysterone. That's certainly possible. And if you can get enough through just food sources, by all means, try and do that and see how it works. And then maybe graduate onto a supplement company that has a high dose product that you think is reputable and will actually have the, you know, the standardization that you're looking for and whatnot. But yeah, anyways, let's see how he summarizes this.
It's synthesized from cholesterol, just like testosterone and vitamin D and all the other anabolic shit. In insects, it works mainly through the ecdysterone receptor. In humans, it's mainly through estrogen receptor beta. It is anabolic as shit. In fact, it's the most anabolic supplement in the world. It's legal. It's natural. You don't need a lot of it to see results. It has virtually no side effects. And it works like a motherfucking charm, right? I have no incentive to lie to you motherfuckers. The fuck do I look like? Am I sponsored by Spinach? Am I sponsored by canola companies? Hell no, right? So try it out and watch your gains go through the roof. If you're a long-time subscriber of mine, you're probably already getting your canola and spinach. But if you're new, then definitely add it to your regimen. All right, guys, don't forget to like.
All right, so that was a good video by Team 3D Alpha. So check out his page and appreciate the full summary and whatnot. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that unique insight. You know, a lot of people asked me to respond to this. It's been on my to-do list for a while now, and we shall see as more feedback comes out. I'm more interested, like, I kind of know what to expect from Turkesterone at this point, but Ecdysterone is still a little bit up in the air. I actually had some people trial it complex with the same hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin before we pursued Turkesterone, and it did produce results. I just don't have enough feedback to give my own, like, overarching summary of how I feel it stacks up to Turkesterone until I've seen more, like, hundreds of people run it. So yeah, if you've tried Ecdysterone, drop the comments down below. Let me know how it is, and you know, maybe something to look into too, because you never know. You could respond better to the Ecdy than Turk, for all we know. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy that. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com, follow me on Instagram, at moreplates.dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, design myself from scratch. If we have Turkesterone in stock, you can check that out on our site. It is complex with hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin on purpose for a very specific reason. If you want to see why, go watch my initial deep dive into it from November, I think. I have no idea if it's going to be in stock when I publish this video, by the way, but I'm trying to push for it, and we shall see. But anyways, if not, stay tuned for that in the future. Hopefully we get some a reasonable amount of inventory where we don't run out again. But it takes a long time to make, so bear with me. And anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.